Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today we're discussing the topic in the title of the video. This old phrase that likes to rear its head every single time wargaming adjusts a minor mechanic in the game. Wargaming's killing the game. I can't believe they're doing XYZ. It's going to murder the game, yada yada yada, so forth and so on. Whatever variation of it you would like to imagine. Now, before we get into the video, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment. It helps out on the YouTube side of things. You got to appease the algorithm overlords, because that's just how YouTube works nowadays. Speaking of the algorithm, you might be thinking, Sealord, I've seen you put this in your titles. You surely are one of those people that talk about the game dying because yada yada yada. Yeah, I put it in my titles because it gets brought up every single time some mechanic changes. Seriously, like, the most minor changes for some reason, these people pop up and say, oh, yep, they've killed the game. And I'm not joking. And we're going to look at some of the past changes that have caused this phrase to pop up. Now, obviously, most recently, it's mines. Mines are being tested right now. That's the purpose of the Concealed Maneuvers game mode. What I think is really funny, too, little anecdote at the side right here, right at the beginning. So, the Concealed Maneuvers game mode was specifically put into the game to test out the new mechanics for the upcoming support CVs. Well, the reintroduction of the odd tier CVs as support CVs. And this mode was put in the game specifically for that. Wargaming said that in the update video and the patch notes. I know I've talked about it at length here on the channel, and I'm sure most of the other content creators have as well. But there's people that are posting to, like, the subreddit and stuff like, I can't believe that in this Concealed Maneuvers mode there's all these CVs. It's, yes, my brother, that's the purpose of the mode. You don't have to play it, but yeah. Anyway, back on track. So yes, they're testing out mines right now, and sure enough, you'll look over the subreddit forums, yada yada. People are saying that mines are going to kill the game. And, you know, with the first round of mines, I can kind of get where that sentiment came from, because those mines were pretty cracked. You know, they did like 10k alpha per mine and caused, like, apparently 2 or 3 instances of flooding. I've seen the clips since I've tried out the current version of mines, and yeah, that one was a little cracked. But now, if you go play the current version of Concealed Maneuvers with the mines, they're not really that bad. Minefields are kind of like a tactical or strategic tool, whatever you want to classify it as. It's kind of like, you know, area denial. You know, you go drop the sea mines on that one spot where the DD loves to, you know, hug up against that island where they always camp, or where that, you know, that one light cruiser always likes to go on that map and they like to camp there. It's either where they have to, you know, slow down and clear the minefield, or they just have to go somewhere else. They're really not that bad. You fly over them with your planes. For those of you that don't know how they work, you push a button, another group of planes come in, they drop the minefield. It takes 45 seconds for it to arm, which is typically enough time for most ships to get out of the minefield, unless you're in, like, you know, one of the slower battleships for the tier. And then you either have to clear them out with your ASW aircraft or your ship-based depth charges, which, by the way, if you're using like a ship-based depth charges, it takes like maybe a minute to clear them out. Observe. Okay. Oh yeah, there's a ton of room for you to get through here. Let's see with the depth charges, how does that going to work? Oh God. Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, I can't go full tilt, but I mean, I'm still going through it a pretty good look through here. Wow, I got a whole cleared ribbon? Like, I cleared the whole... I cleared the whole minefield! Okay, yeah, no, that's that... Unless you're just, like, in the middle of getting ganked, that's not really an issue. Wow, okay. Yeah, so once you clear 100 mines, the whole minefield disappears. And with ships that have ship-based depth charges like the kit. Like you guys saw, it's nothing to remove 100 mines and 2 charges. So not really that big of a deal in my opinion. And in the comments of that video, there's 2 types of comments. There's the people that haven't played the mode and haven't experienced the mines, saying that, oh my god, this is going to kill the game, yada yada yada. And then there's people that have played the mode and they're saying like, yeah, they're not really that big of a deal. They're easy to clear, and yeah, it does suck if you get stuck in them, but you know that there's a clear warning ahead of time. It's not that hard to clear. Or they say like, yeah, it's not that bad, but there still needs to be some tweaking to it, which I agree with that. Like the bigger ships like the Hindenburg and the Golden Lion that don't have ASW aircraft but have the deck-based depth charges, they're not small enough to fit in between the gaps, and yeah, they need something else to deal with the mines rather than the ship-based depth charges. There's 2 types of people there. And you kind of see this trend continue on with these people that always say that the game is dying. So you can even go back to like 2017, 2018 on the forums and see probably some of the earliest iterations of this sentiment. So back when like the smoke firing penalty was added in, if you guys didn't know, back in the day, you could sit in your smoke screen and just farm to your heart's content without ever having to worry about being spotted, unless someone pushed into your assured detection range, which is 2 kilometers. If you do that today, you go into your smoke screen and start firing, you'll notice that your bloom radius goes out to a certain range, depending upon your ship. You can't just sit in smoke and farm without having to worry about somebody pushing you, because now if they push you, once they get within your smoke firing penalty, they'll spot you from outside your smoke screen. And sure enough, there were people back when this was implemented, oh my god, they're killing the game, yada yada, so forth and so on. It's a balancing change that makes sense to me. Like, you're still concealed, you just can't park up in front of somebody that doesn't have hydro and just smoke farm them until they get within 2 kilometers of you. That's kind of dumb. Same with the stealth firing removal. Back in the day, certain ships could fire their guns in the open water, and they would not get detected because, you know, their detection range didn't bloom out to their full gun range. So, yeah, that's kind of dumb in my opinion, and apparently a lot of other players' opinion and Wargaming's opinion, because it was removed. But sure enough, there's people that were saying, oh my god, you're killing the game, yada yada, so forth and so on. And like, the CV rework, obviously that was a really big change, and they did not handle that well. I think at the end, it was a positive change, but they implemented it way too friggin' soon. They didn't do near enough testing. And we had 6 months of hell with the hot fixes and the hot fixes to undo other hot fixes and stuff. But, I mean, if you look at what CVs were before and after, before, they could completely remove you from the match with, 1 or 2 clicks of their mouse. Now, they can't do that. They're more present, yes, but again, they can't just cross-drop you and send you back to port. You can't do that anymore unless you have a Colossus. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it was a positive change overall for the game's long-term health. And I'm not even talking about huge changes anymore. There's just a group of people that they seem just to be like waiting for this game's downfall, and they've been doing it for years, and it's so cult-like, it appears to be, that any change Wargaming does is like, oh, yep, game's dying. One of the ones I can't seem to really understand is the cross-server matchmaking. Okay, cross-server matchmaking was a thing back in like Battlefield 3 or 4, end of the PlayStation 3's life, beginning of the PlayStation 4's life, cross-server matchmaking was starting to be a thing. I'm not saying I don't think Battlefield 4 had cross-region matchmaking. I'm just saying around that time period, games started to do more and more cross-region matchmaking. You weren't just stuck on the server with people from North America or Europe or Asia or Australia, Oceania, and all that stuff. Game companies are starting to allow players to play with players from other regions, thereby increasing, of course, the pool of players you can play with. And if you had friends that were, over in Europe or whatever, you wouldn't have to make an account on their server. You could start to, mix and mingle and all that jazz, which is something that's great in my opinion. I know people in Europe. I would like to play with them and without having to, ring grind my fleet, and I'm sure they would like to play with me without having to regrind their fleet on an account on the North American server. It's been a thing in War Thunder, I think pretty much since War Thunder's been launched, But when Wargaming goes and says, we're working on cross-server matchmaking for random battles, people are like, yep, look at that, game's dying. Like, what? It's been a pretty standard feature in the gaming industry for the past 10 years just about now, and now that Wargaming's catching up to it, yeah, the game's dying. It's like, what? And I mean, like, the game's going to die eventually, right? One day, yes, Wargaming will pull the plug on World of Warships. When will that day be? I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, based upon one thing. Frickin' World of Warplanes is still up. Like, you can go right now in the Wargaming Game Center, and you can download World of Warplanes, and you can get in a match with it. I don't understand how this game's still going, alright? Like, this is an actual dead or dying game. You'll be, I don't know, probably like the luckiest person in the world to run into more than one or two people in a World of Warplanes lobby, right? Like, I did a video on it, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I played for like 5 hours. I ran across one dude in those 5 hours. It was all bots. I thought I was like freaking an ace, I thought I was freaking, Tom Cruise himself, how well I was doing in these matches. But then I'm like, oh wait, these are all bots. Oh, yeah, like there's not really any events going on in World of Warplanes. I don't even know when the last time they introduced their newest tech line or whatever. That's a dead and dying game. This game receives constant updates, constant new tech trees, constant new premiums. There's constantly events going on. I mean, of course, Wargaming wants money. No duh, because the other argument is, no, Wargaming's just trying to, milk the player base for everything they can before they pull the plug in World of Warships. And I mean, that may be true. We've talked about the numbers, and people have countered with other charts, and they said, no, if you look at it like this, then you can see the player. Like, oh my god, okay, look, like, from someone that plays the game on a regular basis, like, the queue times aren't really anything. I mean, shoot, unless you go down to like tier 2, you're not really going to have more than a minute or two of queue time, or unless you take a super ship or a CV or a submarine. You've taken any of the main lines, you're in pretty much instantly. And if you take a CV or a submarine, you might have to wait for like, I don't know, 50 seconds or a minute, unless you're playing, at oddball hours, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But I mean, look at not that many patches ago. We had, well, in fact, let's just look at last patch. We had asymmetrics, which was insanely popular. We had clan battles, we had ranked, and we had random battles, all running at the same time. And then we had co-op and operations. There were 6 modes running all at the same time, and the queue times were instant in all 6 of those modes. Well, asymmetrics might have taken a minute because it was so freaking popular, and there's 80 battleships in queue at any given time. That's on the North American server. I'm sorry, that's not a dying game. When you can just choose any of these 6 modes and just pop right into a battle. And that was the last patch. And that was in the summer. There's not a lot of people on right now. The player base right now is at about its thinnest for North America, given the server trends. The winter's about to start back up. Fall's about to be here. School's about to be back in session. So the player base is actually going to rise here with the natural flow of the player base seasonally. So yeah, the game's not dying. It's not dead. It's not World of Warplanes. Like, there's real people playing. You can, again, hop in a queue anytime, just about any game mode when it's running, and get in pretty quick, unless you're playing on oddball hours. And I know there's some people that they say, well, I had to sit in queue for 5 minutes. And then typically when you get them to actually tell you what time they were playing, it's like, well, yeah, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, yeah, or they're playing a super ship, or they had some weird division going up or something like that. But yeah, no, like, I don't know. I just want to talk about these people that are always just, waiting for the downfall of the game. And again, yeah, the game's going to die. It's going to die eventually. I'm sure they'll be like, I called it all the way back in 2017. And there are some parts of the game that I do think Wargaming is doing a very poor job of running, like competitive and making the choice to add super ships back into it. I will say that, yes, the competitive side of this game, Wargaming, is not helping it at all. It's definitely not growing. From someone that played a pretty decent chunk of clan battles last season. I was pretty absent for the last couple of weeks because real life stuff. But, we're running to the same 4 or 5 teams over and over again. And back when we first started, I mean, shoot, we would maybe run to the same team 2-3 times a season, and now it's like every night. And, this could, of course, just be a shift in the game's player base. This game's getting near 10 years old, guys. A lot of us that started playing when this game first started back in 2017, we were in high school or college. And now we're out, we're adults. A lot of us have had kids, and, in the time span that we've been playing this game, those kids are probably, 5 years old, something like that, So the game's been going for some time, and I'm wondering if what we're seeing is a exodus of the older player base and an influx of kind of the next generation of Warship players, if you will. Players that are younger, have shorter attention spans, because that's just how the young peoples take it from a school teacher. Oh man, so goldfish have longer attention span than some of these kids, and that's just, I don't know, that might be what we're seeing, what I think's going on too. So I don't know. I just wanted to discuss this topic, if you will, if you will. Just one of these rambling op-ed videos that I do every now and then. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and wonderful rest of your week, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.